In one of our previous videos, we talked about the possibility of Daenerys being pregnant by Jon Snow. And after being resurrected in a possible Game of Thrones sequel, we could see that son become the prince that was promised. But what would have happened if Jon Snow finds out that Daenerys was pregnant, just before finishing her off in front of the Iron Throne? What would the ending of Game of Thrones have looked like then? In this video, we will be analyzing an alternate version of the events in Game of Thrones. The birth of Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen's child. And for more videos from the Game of Thrones universe, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Welcome to the Three-Eyed Raven. First, we must start by saying that this theory is supported in reality. After the end of Game of Thrones, different images and behind-the-scenes scenes have come out, which point to the fact that Daenerys was pregnant during the 8th season of Game of Thrones. There's one scene especially that Game of Thrones fans have mentioned, where we can see behind the scenes that Daenerys is pregnant during the episode of the Bell, the same one in which she destroys King's Landing. Some have claimed that this is a scene created to divert the fans' attention, in case any leaks occurred. But what if Jon Snow, in the original version of Game of Thrones, really had to choose between Daenerys, his son, and the rest of the world? Perhaps the decision that Jon Snow had to make to end Ollie's life after betraying him would be an omen to the terrible decisions he would have to make in the future. If she had revealed to him that she was pregnant just before he took the life of the Mother of Dragons, it would have changed everything. After all, Jon Snow killed her to protect his family. Jon feared that Daenerys would attack Winterfell and would end up taking the lives of Sansa, Arya, or Bran. Jon protected his family by sacrificing his love, but if Daenerys had revealed to him that she was pregnant, Jon would have been faced with an impossible decision. Daenerys, the love of his life with his heir. Jon Snow has always been a character guided by morals and justice, and has proven on several occasions that he is capable of making difficult decisions when he believes it is the right thing to do. Throughout the series, Jon has faced moral dilemmas, and has chosen the well-being of the people over his personal interests, but the birth of a child changes everything. Jon knows how he was discriminated against and rejected throughout his life. Possibly he thought from a young age that if he ever had a child, everything would be different. Maybe Jon gave up the idea of having offspring when he joined the Night's Watch, but maybe this hope returned with Daenerys. I think that if Daenerys had been pregnant, Jon would have done nothing. What would happen next would be the execution of Tyrion Lannister for betraying Daenerys, and Daenerys' systematic conquest over the rest of Westeros. The birth of a daughter or son of Jon and Daenerys would represent a new stage in the Targaryen family in Westeros. The name of a son of both would obviously be Aegon Targaryen, but the name of a daughter I believe would be Missandei Targaryen, in honor of her faithful friend. Now, I don't think the peace will last long, because if Daenerys really wanted to bring freedom to all of Westeros, perhaps she could start in the north, and Sansa's army would march against Daenerys' army. Winterfell is not in such a good condition after the long night to face the army of the Unsullied and the Dothraki, so Winterfell would quickly fall to Daenerys, and here would possibly come the end of the Queen of Ashes. I think if Daenerys had been pregnant, but had continued on her path of tyranny, she would have eventually been betrayed by one of her men, even Jon Snow himself in the future. I think the ending would have been similar, the difference being that their child would have become the rightful heir to the throne. Perhaps history would have repeated itself, but what would have been a happy ending for Jon Snow, Daenerys, and their son? After Jon Snow had found out about the pregnancy, he would have tried to convince Daenerys to give up the throne. In this alternate ending, Jon will continue with the idea of not ruling. Remember, he mentioned several times that he did not want to be king. Perhaps he would have convinced Daenerys to escape with him and go into exile in Essos. First, Daenerys would have resisted, as she has been fighting all her life to regain her family's throne. King's Landing belongs to the Targaryens, but she would have realized herself that the inhabitants of this place despised her. She knows that there is no love for her there, and she would not have been willing to lose her son and husband again. I think there is a good chance that Daenerys would have escaped with Jon to Essos, where they would have lived out their days in a humble way, and perhaps the Targaryen legacy would return to somewhere near Valyria. On the other hand, everything else could stay the same, with Bran as the king of the Seven Kingdoms, and a not-so-sad ending. However, Daenerys' pregnancy was never revealed, perhaps because it was just rumors, deleted scenes, or some fake scene to divert the attention. In the end, Jon Snow finished off the Mother of Dragons, and that family never developed. However, as we mentioned in a previous video, there is still hope. Currently, the series of Jon Snow and the Sea Snake are in competition to see which one will have the green light in its production, according to news that came out this week, so we could have Jon Snow back, and of course there is the possibility of Daenerys' return. A Daenerys who will be resurrected and who could be pregnant. Let's imagine for a moment that there were actually scenes filmed where Daenerys was pregnant, and that this is not a fake shot, that these scenes were saved and could be used in some flashback in the future. What if Daenerys really will have a child with Jon after she is resurrected, and this child would become a new threat? The Targaryen lineage issue is one of the most important in this universe, and the end of Game of Thrones really wasn't helpful in explaining why the Targaryens should really be in power, and maybe there are a lot of stories to be told. But tell me, what are your thoughts on all that? What would Jon Snow have done if Daenerys had been pregnant? How do you think it would have changed Game of Thrones finale? And if you liked this content, I invite you to become a member of this channel. Each contributor will see their name at the end of all videos. And for more videos with theories, news, and stories from the Game of Thrones universe, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You are on. The Three-Eyed Raven.